Hello everyone, welcome to Behind the Mic. I'm Gary Laubach and he's not Mike Joseph. Instead, that's the very familiar face of Lafayette football, John Leone. John will be on the sideline again for the 3:30 start this Saturday when Lafayette takes on the CAA football team. That is William and Mary. They come into the ball game 2-0. They are a very, very athletic football team. John, talk a little bit about, because I know you've looked at it closely. We both think this may be the most athletic team we're going to play so far, and maybe the most talented team we've played so far. And yet, tell us where they rank in the Colonial Athletic Association.
Well, when you introduce them as a member of the CAA, picture this. 8 of these teams in this conference are either ranked in the top 20 or receiving votes. Mm-hmm. Now, people who watch that other football team on the other side of the valley saw what Villanova did against Lehigh last weekend. This team was picked 5th in their conference, and you and I both watched film. That's a scary thought. This is a great conference.
This is really a good football team. They come in ranked number 15 or 17, depending on which rankings you are looking at. Their head coach is Michael London. He's in his 4th season, 14-14, but no question, this is, I think, the best team he has had. We've played them 6 times. We beat them the first time. We've lost the last 5, so we'll come in again as an underdog in this football game. They've already beaten an FBS team. So they are off to a terrific start at 2-0. But let's reflect back a little bit on the Temple game by Lafayette before we go into some of the personnel that the Tribe have. John, we played a good football game. You often talk about one-third, one-third, one-third. You got to win 2/3 of the game. We won 1/3 of the game.
Yeah, and let's reflect. We played 2 games so far. Reflect back to the Sacred Heart game. The defense, what can you say? You can't do much better than shutting a team out. And then I thought the special teams against Sacred Heart certainly held its own, if not, gave us good field position and gave the defense a chance. Those 2 phases of the game won the day for sure. Last weekend, not so much. I thought the defense played well enough. 21-14 going into the 4th quarter. I think any Lafayette fan would take that. Mm-hmm. That said, in the 4th quarter, Gary, you and I talked about it, 2 blocked kicks, and of course they were unable to really execute in terms of protecting in our special teams game.
And you've got to look at Billy Schaefer, who's our long snapper. Billy was out because of injury and therefore replaced. So the ball's got to get back at a particular number of 0.1 seconds. And obviously the kicker has to get the kick off. And obviously you have to keep the edge rushers from getting to the football. Probably in the 3 block punts, we didn't do any of those things well. And thus, as you mentioned, I thought the defense played a great football game. I thought the offense played better than they played against Sacred Heart. But again, those turnovers just killed us.
They really are. And, you know, you see John Troxel and his staff trying to figure out ways. I particularly liked when they saw how aggressive the Temple defense was coming, that misdirection play where they threw the ball back against the grain, almost inviting that pressure. And then, heck, the receiver could have caught the ball in the end zone. It was just a great call. And you saw the confidence build. Listen, this is a team. I happened to walk next to Brad Potts the other day. He's a neighbor of mine. And he said, no letdown whatsoever. This team came out of this game understanding that they can play with anybody on the schedule. This weekend, watch this game. If they can play with William and Mary, the future, even this year, is very bright.
And one final note, Lafayette was really doing a great job against the starting quarterback of Temple. So what did they do? They go find a freshman, E.J. Warner, the son of the NFL, I'm sure, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner, and the kid comes in and just does a spectacular job. And probably he was the difference as much as anybody else in the football game for a Temple win.
Well, if I'm a doctor for Lafayette, I want to do a DNA test, because now the DNA would be pretty similar, but he looked a lot like his dad. He was just, you could tell the whole team was uplifted. He started throwing darts all over the place. But again, Gary, having said that, that change was made fairly early in the game. Again, Lafayette's defense was up to the challenge. They gave their team a chance to win.
No question about it. But now the focus comes on William and Mary. And is their focus going to be on Lafayette? They open up CAA play next week against Elon. That ball game will be at home. Maybe we might catch them looking ahead a little bit. Never know if that's going to be the case. John, their offense is spectacular. 475 yards a game. They rushed the football for 287 yards, throw for 188. They have played an FBS team in Campbell. They have beaten Charlotte. They've got all the ingredients. Outstanding running back in Malachi Emo, 2 touchdowns last week, 56 yards and 20 yards. Then they go to Bronson Yoder. Yoder's the powerful back. Emo is the very, very quick back.
Yeah, and you know what? When you have that kind of talent, and more importantly, depth, because we're throwing some names out here, Gary, but that doesn't mean that William and Mary can't go 2 or 3 or 4 deep. Unfortunately, I was able to watch some film on these guys. John Troxell doesn't have that luxury. He's got to watch them. But how about Darius Hill, the quarterback? I mean, doing his best Michael Vick imitation, we saw him take off on a 70-yarder. He's fast. They've got speed, and talk about power. They got a tight end named
Lachlan Pitts.
Lachlan Pitts, right? And I couldn't help but conjure up the Loch Ness Monster. Lachlan Pitts is not as difficult to find. We're going to know where he is at 6'6", 255. Picture this. They get the ball out to him in space, and you're a 6 foot, 195 defensive back who's got to come up and make that tackle. We saw him score in a long play from William & Mary, and the guys that went to celebrate him were cautiously approaching him. That's how big and tough he is.
And he does. He is tied for the lead in catches on the football team with 5 catches. Also, J.T. Mayo, an outstanding wide receiver. They've thrown the ball. John talks about that. 9 different receivers have caught the ball so far this year. The quarterback, Darius Wilson, John always finds a different name for people. They also have Hollis Mathis, who they do bring in as the backup. Defensively, John, maybe if you look at the numbers, maybe that's an area we can exploit. They give up 350 yards a game. They do have some injuries in the secondary, but they injure one of their best players in the secondary. Did not play last week. The kid gets his first opportunity to play, Jalen Jones. And what does he do? He intercepts 3 passes.
And it's not just depth, it's quality depth. I suspect there are a lot of teams in the country for whom this second or third team would start. And you're right. Now, when you talk about matchups, the struggle, the growth for Lafayette is coming on the offensive side of the ball. So we have struggled a little offensively, still trying to find our footing there. So that matchup, even though William & Mary gives up some points, Lafayette's going to have to figure out a way to move the ball if that's a weakness of William & Mary.
And that puts the pressure right back on the defense. As John mentioned, 21-14 at the end of the third quarter. They did force 3 turnovers in that football game. The defense played as well as they played in week 1. They really played an excellent ball game for sure in week 2. Marco Olivas with 11 tackles. Watching the game, he was all over the place. Jair Stevens, 6 tackles, a forced fumble, 1.5 tackles for a loss. Ryan Schuster, I thought, he just needs more time. They just don't give him a lot of time, and I'm not quite sure yet he is used to really kind of seeing the whole field instead of locking in a little bit on one side of the field.
Well, you always wonder about that. Lafayette fans who have been around a while remember our great offensive line coach, Bobby Hefner, was walking up the street with him one day, and he always told me the quarterback is part of the protection. That said, there are times when Ryan drops back the pass, and right away his eyes go down. He's looking because it hasn't been there. Now, again, I'm not one of the coaches. I'm not an O-line coach, but I have to believe that that's fixable. Do you keep somebody back there, an extra blocker? Do you bring in an extra tight end? I think what will be key to this offense's growth is if they can find a way to make some adjustments and protect Ryan Schuster better. That's the key to making any offense go.
Yeah, there are 3 sides to every passing game, obviously. Can the line hold the defensive line from getting to Ryan? Can Ryan kind of analyze the defense before the ball is snapped? And certainly, can the receivers get open? We really haven't answered any of those questions yet, except maybe on the negative side. Another negative, John, 3 for 16 on 3rd down on Saturday. That just keeps that defense back on the field and back on the field.
Yeah, first down. You have to win first down if you're going to establish yourself offensively. Otherwise, you're in 2nd and 3rd and long. Worse than that, you're behind the sticks. Now, that said, I think Lafayette has done a great job of not beating themselves. The Temple game notwithstanding with some of the block punts, but up to that point, and it really stood out to me during the Sacred Heart game, the longer that game went on, the team that was making the most egregious and the most costly mistakes was Sacred Heart. We just stayed steady. I think for the most part down at Temple, playing against that kind of team in that kind of environment, I thought we held our own, did not beat ourselves until that fateful 4th quarter. But Gary, you're absolutely right. You have to control football. The defense can get tired out there, and 3 for 16 on 3rd down, you got to find a way to stay on the field.
Well, Mike and I will be up in the booth on Saturday at 3:30 when the tribe of William & Mary come to town. John will be back down on the sideline. We invite you, as always, to be on our sideline in front of your TV and computer. So, for Behind the Mic, thanks to John for stepping in. I'm Gary Laubach. Goodbye for now.